What if you could see a picture of a lost loved one captured in a photograph? Not something you took before they passed. I mean, like a picture of them after they died. Well, in the mid-1800s, one man claimed he could do just that. This fraud is William H. Mumler, the OG of ghost photography, responsible for making paranormal photography a national sensation. Or national scam. Scamsation? Yes. So Mumler was an engraver by trade, and so I'm sure that had something to do with how he did it, but basically Mumler would take a picture of you and then go and develop it, and then voila, when you get it back, there's a ghost of a family member supposedly in the image. So Western civilizations go through these cycles of spiritualism. It'll be super popular for a while, then fade, then come back again. And you have to keep in mind, Mumler became very famous after the Civil War. Spiritualism was kind of in vogue, understandably, because hundreds of thousands of families were looking for comfort in the sudden loss of their loved ones. Absolute creep, this guy, in my opinion. Oh, and his most famous photo is Mary Todd Lincoln with the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. The audacity. Anywho, Mumler got accused and charged with fraud after supposed ghosts showed up in photos, but remarkably, those ghosts were people that were still alive. Oops. Even P.T. Barnum testified against him in court. Other expert photographers in court were able to show how the effect could be done in a darkroom. Keyword, could. There are even people on YouTube that have done something similar with era-appropriate cameras and darkrooms, but he was still acquitted because they couldn't prove beyond any doubt that he was faking it and that the images weren't actually ghosts. And that's enough for me. I'm going to try to take pictures of ghosts, even though I don't believe in ghosts. I only believe in goat men, demons, chupacabras, Jersey devils, Bigfoot, and unicorns. Before we proceed, William Mumler wasn't a complete hack. After being acquitted, he refocused his photography efforts on development processes and discovered what would be called the Mumler process, something about allowing for photoelectrotype plates to be produced and printed more easily. That was actually a big deal for newspapers and maybe changed the course of photojournalism. So I have to admit, I used to be a big believer in ghosts. I even used to believe that I could sense them in a way. Now, don't take that as I thought I was psychic. That's not the case. I actually thought it had something to do with the biblical gift of discernment or something like that. And I still admit that I've experienced some things that really just aren't explainable. Eventually, as I became more of a person who bases everything on logic and proof, I had to just chalk those experiences up to there is a reasonable explanation. There was a reasonable explanation at that time. I just lack some understanding and I can't explain it myself. So I remain a skeptic, maybe even a hopeful skeptic. I think it'd be super cool if ghosts are real. I just haven't seen any evidence myself. At the very least, if they are, they have to be rare, surely. I doubt these paranormal YouTube channels are actually encountering demons everywhere they go in every episode weekly. Otherwise, there would be like no skeptics if it was that common. Everyone would have run into a shadow man at some point. There's only one solution. I have to gather evidence myself. Any images I take, the only adjustments I'm going to do is exposure, contrast, clarity, textures, highlights, shadows, just the basics, okay? No bullshit. I'm only doing those to make scenes easier to see in shadows and things like that, just in case something is hiding. If I don't find anything, that means I'm right. If I do find something, you can still believe I'm bullshitting you, but at least I'll know that I'm not effing around. And I'll probably be scared to take pictures in new places, fearing a ghost will appear in any of the photos. And on that note, I've never ever personally found an accidental ghost in any of my images, and there's probably millions at this point. But fun story, my mom, a long time ago, actually had some pretty freaky and interesting photos. Imagine this because I don't have the images, but consecutive images were taken of the same statue in a local cemetery. Images go normal, normal, weird fog covering the entire viewable ground, normal, normal. In said fog, kind of looks like humanoid figures are in there. Now, this is before I was a photographer, so all we had was the photo adjustment tools inherent on Microsoft laptops at that time. Another weird thing, orbs are just dust and insects, right? Well, at the same location and others like it, zoom into the orbs, adjust contrast and exposure, do all those kind of simple adjustments, and you could totally see faces in some of them. Sometimes one face per orb, sometimes many faces in a single orb. At the time, it freaked me out. Today, I chalk it up to pareidolia, which, if I said that right, is the human being's ability to see faces in everything. Abraham Lincoln in the clouds, or the Virgin Mary in burnt toast. It's likely an evolutionary survival mechanism to be able to recognize familiar patterns, as it increases alertness and it benefits you in being able to assess threats. You clicked on this video to see ghosts, and I'm educating you on psyche. But that's enough ghost stories. Let's try to capture some. You should remember that if you're going to go and pretend to chase ghosts in a cemetery, you must have proper etiquette. There are cemetery rules. Do not video or photograph headstones of people who you are not related to. Do not touch headstones your family didn't pay for, and go away if there is a funeral in progress. I have a theory. If ghosts are real, it is because they are not at peace. There are no ghosts here, I assume, because this cemetery is absurdly peaceful. And for what it's worth, what a great place to take pictures of things that are real, like some of the exuberant flowers growing behind the groundskeeper's office, or birds, which are abundant here because the city takes very good care of the cemetery and it's so calm. There also probably aren't any mean ghosts here, I'd bet, because my grandma and grandpa are buried here, who I did take a moment to visit. And Grandpa was a slick, cool, white shirt, leather jacket wearing, yoked, shredded abs into his late 50s kind of figure that used to smash bullies for picking on the less cool kids in school. If there are mean ghosts here, they've already backed down, like the crowd of Hell's Angels that tried to extort my grandma for money in the 60s. Ghosts may not be real, but everything I just said is. The point is, everyone here is at peace, and you can actually feel that in the air. I made sure to remain very discreet and respectful, and I decided to walk down this path because I've heard more or less the same story from two people that don't know each other. Since this cemetery is very peaceful and quiet, it's a popular place for people to walk for exercise. Both individuals have a similar story about how they were walking, not paying much attention, and almost bumping into someone very urgently walking the opposite direction before sidestepping, saying, "Excuse me," only to realize there was no one there. One individual caught it more out of their peripheral vision, and the other actually got a decent look and described an old-style dressed farmer who was urgently heading somewhere. Coincidence? As I was walking, I noticed this, a spit cup. Whoever tossed that, you're a f***ing ass. There are trash cans every 30 or so yards on these paths. You should be ashamed. So that's my quick first trip. I'll see you in Lightroom. 295 images I've got to go through. I was doing bursts of about 15 to 40 some odd images just to see if there's anything side by side that changes from one to the other. Those will be fairly obvious. And then I've got to go through these and I have to see if there's anything in the individual nooks and crannies, I guess. I don't know, I'm not a ghost photographer, so I don't exactly know how to do this. I'm learning as I go. I guess first I'll just go through each burst and see if there's anything blatantly obvious from one image to the other. Okay, so I didn't get any weird mist like the ghost story I told earlier in any of these photos. Nothing really stands out as super obvious. If you're wondering why I'm ripping through these and not doing each individual one, it's because I am not going to go through the process of blurring out every single name on the headstones should they appear in the video. We're keeping it respectful. Okay, so I've made some wild adjustments that would normally make like a regular person just look really, really crazy. But hopefully it sculpts out some things that might be a little ghostly. And I'm just going to go through and apply this to all the images and go through and kind of look in the backgrounds and see if anything pops up. That took so incredibly long to go through, and I didn't get so much as a single orb or even one instance of pareidolia. I didn't even see anything that looked like it might be something and required further investigation. There simply was nothing. But I still got something interesting for you. So while I was editing the video, I wanted to see if I could try to get rid of all of the ambient noise, like the sound of me walking and the wind blowing across the mic of the DJI here. And while I was doing that, I came across some pretty weird sounds. Now, me personally, I think it kind of seems to loosely, in some cases directly, correlate to like my gimbal kind of trying to find center because I had it in my pocket and it was rubbing up against my belt and not allowing the gimbal to move like it wanted to stabilize. And so, again, loosely in some cases, and then in other cases, directly seems to correlate with that kind of action. And as I was trying to drown it out, I tried voice isolation, right? Because that kind of drowns out everything that's like not a voice. There's definitely like some sounds that I could understand freaking people out because it sounds like voices. And then in other cases, it sounds like a whole conversation might be going on. I know what I chalk it up to. I think it's explainable in most of the cases, but I see why people would get freaked out by it. So I'm going to include it just for fun. Take it as you will. I think it's totally explainable. You may find it fun and freaky. By the way, I'm not giving up yet. This is only the first one of these that I'm doing. Next, I'm going to a place that multiple people swear is like haunted. And by the way, our friend and resident model to the Z Wade Photo YouTube channel, Allie, is a believer, and she'll be joining me. So subscribe so you don't miss it. I'm Z Wade, the Z Wade, and Z Wade Photo. Stay sharp, YouTube.